How's it going, everybody? RazingHel here, and even though I know others have completed this well before me, I thought you might be interested in seeing how it was that I managed to do my first successful solo run in Don't Starve Together the Gorge. So I was playing as WES, as you can see right here, and the recipe that I followed was one that was linked to me by Fuffles, who is fairly well known in the Discord chats that I'm in, at least, so I'll be including a link to the version that I used because I went ahead and recompiled it for my own purposes. I find the way a lot of people tend to write their guides is more step-by-step, when a lot of the time I'm just looking for an overview of like what recipes you need to follow. So that's how I managed to successfully do this, because I'm not the type of person who can keep track of all of this in my mind. I really do need a set or a list to follow along with to give me an idea or to remind me of what it is that needs to be done next. So the first recipe that I'm working on here is going to be the stone soup. It requires 1 berry, 1 stone, and 1 fern or foliage, I suppose. And you put it in a cook pot and you cook it up. And the good thing about this is if you complete this one fast, you know, it gives you plenty of time to get that salt rack up and going, because that's like a fixed time expenditure that you have to factor in. There's really no way of getting around it because there's no way of speeding up the rate at which the salt gathers, and you need the salt for the next one. So on top of this being a solo run, I also did it within 7 recipes, which I think is also an important aspect to point out. And then I also got, I use the 2 signs there, so for the first recipe I'll usually use the 2 logs that are laying down and then throw the 2 signs in as well for the gardens. And as you can see here, you can also do a bit of tilling. I usually like to till near to the crock pot that I'm using. Or the cook pot, I should say. I'm used to calling it a crock pot, but it's not. And there's the first recipe done. You can see it's relatively quickly. And then we can actually get the blue seeds open and plant them. But first you want to do the salt rack for obvious reasons. And the salt rack is going to cost, I think, 7 gold as WES. One thing maybe that I should note early on here is that I do take advantage of me being WES. If you play a different character, you would not be able to do quite what I did. But if you were a little bit, if you made fewer mistakes, I guess you could say, than I did, you probably wouldn't have an issue with a different character. So you want to get the salt, whatever it's called. I always forget, it's a salt rack. Yeah, that's what it is. You want to get that up, and then I usually go ahead here and plant 4 wheat. It gives you some flexibility there. And then it comes down to chopping trees. And they usually, I think, I chop around 25 until I have 25 logs. You can click on trees to chop them faster if you're good at it. I'm not necessarily good at it, so you'll see some parts here where I am chopping faster and other parts where I'm chopping about the same rate or maybe even a little bit slower than if I'd actually held the action command key on my keyboard. The general idea behind providing some commentary over this, I thought, was to give you some insight into some of the things that I did wrong and whatnot, in addition to sort of narrating what I did correctly. Because I think that's something that's oftentimes missing in these presentations, especially if someone isn't too familiar with how to do it, the formula, how to successfully complete it. You know, they can see me making mistakes, and if I don't inform, them beforehand, they might think that I was doing it correctly, and then try to replicate that, and then that results in them failing. So I would like to avoid that if at all possible. And I know a couple of the other matches that I put up about the Gorge where they sort of revolved around an entire party talking about the game. And since I played it myself, this one does not have anybody else in it. And so I figured, it was a choice between either having a silent playthrough, and that's an Apple Watch thing. Thank you for that useless notification. You have a choice between either having a silent playthrough or me doing some commentary on it in post, and since most of my stuff has commentary, I figured I would just do this. It doesn't take too long. It's like 22 minutes for the entire video. Shouldn't be too much of a problem to keep the silence out of the airtime. And, it's something that I think I'm a little bit better known for, maybe is the right word for it. Not necessarily well known, but like all of my videos have commentary in them, so it'd be a little bit weird to start putting up videos that are almost entirely silent. Here you will notice I am wasting a little bit of time by this salt rack. I could have afforded myself maybe another tree or two, but you want to make sure you get the salt as quickly as possible, because that's like one of the biggest things that holds you up in this like round 2 of recipes. Of course, Billy can be annoying sometimes, because sometimes you'll be at the very far end of the map. Sometimes you'll be really close. You know, it's hard to predict. It's not set in any way. It's randomized. So it's just one of those little things you have to deal with. So at this point, we're taking the salt after having convert the crystals into the actual salt. We're going to go to the Pig King. He's like a Pig King. And go ahead and get the key for the safe. He's a Pig Elder, they call him now. And then we're also going to get that 1 mushroom and 4 potatoes. Now, if I'd remembered to drop like the 7 coins from my inventory, I could have also picked up the 2 rot, and the 2 rot can come in useful later on for, you know, forced growing foods. And I think there is a point later on in this video where it's pretty demonstrably clear that if I had that rot in my inventory, I would have saved some time. But then again, I would have saved some time if I had planted the wheat that I needed in that later part of the video beforehand. So yeah, it's all about being able to look ahead to what you plan to do on the next recipe while you're creating the current recipe. You can't look too far ahead for some resources because they can spoil, but for things especially like wheat, you can usually look quite far ahead if you got extra time. So I put 3 logs, I think, on that fire, so it's cooking right now, and I'm a little bit impatient. I'm a little bit in a hurry because I want to make sure that I get back before I actually, before my soup, I think it's a potato soup, before it actually boils over. So I'm a little bit impatient at this point. And this chest was pretty decent. You know, you are guaranteed 1 plate and 1 bowl in each chest, so, you know, it doesn't matter which are safe, I guess. It's not really a chest. It doesn't really matter that much which one you get, because you will get the silverware needed to serve any recipe from 1 chest. Okay, it's completed now, and we're just going to go ahead and put it in the bowl. In terms of whether or not you get the casserole dish or the large cook pot or the sap pot, whatever the sap pot's called, it doesn't matter as much as you might think. Like, if you got really unlucky and didn't get what you needed both times in a row, you might run into a bit of a problem there where you wouldn't have enough gold to buy it. But otherwise, you can just buy the large casserole dish and the large cook pot from the merchant over here in this spice biome. I guess that's a thing called, I forget the official name. I think there was an official name for it, but I forgot what it is. This is Pipton, he's the merchant, and this is where we're buying our large cook pot. But we won't need to buy the large casserole dish from him because we already found it in the first safe. So the safes are one of those things that you really can't predict. In our case, getting meat was good because I think the alternative was harder to make. We already have 2 of the... Oh wait, we got fish. I'm sorry. We got fish, yes. We already have 2 of the ingredients, the mushroom and the potato. And the salt is also already ready. It's already ready. That sounds a bit repetitive, but it gets the job done, I guess. Yeah, so we're going over here to Billy, the kid, to get a fishing pole. Oh wait, we're getting a trap? Oh, I forgot about that. Then we aren't making poached fish. For some reason, I assumed we were making poached fish. I guess it just goes to show how many different variants I've tried and how little attention I'm actually paying to what's going on in the screen. That's a bit sad. So when it comes to chasing bunnies in, like, the one thing you don't want to do is chase them too far. You don't want to chase them past the trap, because once they get past the trap, it means you're going to have to circle all the way back around and come at them from that angle. And that wastes so much more time than just being a little bit more patient when chasing them in from this direction goes. So, like, you want to take a little bit of extra time, make sure you line it up perfectly so the rabbit will get in there without you needing to change direction. I guess that's the best advice I could give there in terms of trapping rabbits. Yeah, so now we got the 2 meat scraps, and we just need a potato and a mushroom. That's why we went ahead and gathered that mushroom before, as well as the potato. It was sort of in preparation in case we ended up with this recipe. This recipe wasn't guaranteed, but it can pop up and it's useful to have that stuff prepared. And we also have 3 salt available. And we also have a bowl, which is interesting. So I'm trying to, oh, I was going to buy the seed there. This is where I made a mistake, I think. I was going to buy a blue seed there. I misclicked, didn't get the blue seed, and I started walking back without, like, I was about halfway back when I realized I had not purchased the seed. And I was like, oh, I really don't want it to boil over. So I'm just going to go ahead and walk all the way back and catch it off the cook pot. And this is where I realize I don't have another bowl, silver bowl to serve it in. So I'm going to actually have to go and get the key. So I made a bit of a mistake here. I should not have started cooking it until I went and got the key from the pig elder and then was in the process of going to the safe. So I wasted a bit of time there for sure. But yeah, I mean, at this point I was a little bit worried because it had been a good run so far. This is one of those strategies that I followed here where if you don't get vegetables on the second recipe, you're supposed to go ahead and restart the game. But I had been quite lucky in my time playing it that most of the tries that I had, it didn't require me to reset after getting the second recipe because I'd get bread. So there's only a plate in there, and I needed a bowl. So like before, you might have seen I was a little bit hesitant as to which direction I was supposed to go in. I was thinking, oh, I left something in that one safe, didn't I? And after that, I was like, well, was it a plate or was it a bowl? I thought it was a plate, but it could have been a bowl. And in the process of all this going through my mind within a couple of seconds, I decided to play it safe and get the key. And there I accidentally on something, I think, that caused Wes to walk away. So we're going to salt it. So it's, we've got the soup in the bowl. Is it a stew or a soup? I forget. Probably should open up the recipes here just to have it by my side so I remember the exact names. So it was number 2, round 2, it would be 3 potatoes in a silver bowl. What the hell? That's not right. I don't even know what I'm looking at this point. Yeah, probably not to mislead you. I'm not gonna. Oh, it was round 3. That's what it was. Round 3, it was a cook pot, 2 meat, 1 potato, 1 mushroom, and silver bowl. Yeah. So this is round 4. Round 4 is always dessert, which makes things a lot simpler. And we've got the wheat, but you know, if we had a little bit more foresight, we would have gone ahead and ground it a little bit earlier than what we did, because now I'm needing to waste some time to walk all the way over there to the grinding stone. And, you know, obviously this can be avoided with a little bit of pre-planning. So I just want, like, in some ways this is good. I think that it's an imperfect run because it shows you that you can make some mistakes and still win. You don't have to be perfect for an entire 18 minutes. And here I'm going to get the berry. So I need 2 milk, 1 berry, and 1 flour. I've got 1 flour and then I've got 2 flour, I should say. So that means we have got 1 and then an additional flour to spare. And I just need to buy the milk from Mumsy now, which is going to need the red mark. Now later on, you'll notice that I really do leverage Wes's bargaining ability. That's his character's special trait. And I use it to buy silver plates or bowls from Mumsy as the need arises. Like I already have 1 silver mark at the moment. And I also salt all of these dishes now as soon as I get them out. So you saw me salt the previous stew. It was a stew or something. It was the meat stew thing. I don't pay as much attention to the names of the recipes as I do to the ingredient requirements. And yeah, I mean, that's the thing. There's so many recipes too. To memorize all 70 of them would be quite a commitment. This was a cheesecake. You can see I salted it there. Yeah, to salt stuff, in case you weren't familiar, you can, you know, hover the salt over it and right click. And you offer it up on the Altar of Gnaw. And that's our first favor right there from the dessert, because we served it in a silver tray, silver plate. So I forgot, I just didn't look at what the next recipe was. I think it was mushroom soup or something. So we needed to get 2 mushrooms, and you know, once again, this is something that could have been pre-planned. The time I went through here before, I could have picked up these mushrooms, and they probably would have enough life on them, and it would have saved me a lot of time. It's not always the easiest looking for mushrooms. You know, expect to turn your camera around. This is something that maybe doesn't occur to people who generally play the game with their camera rotated to the default position, but a lot of stuff can sort of hide out of sight from you if you don't rotate it from time to time. So just a little tip there, if you're missing something, you don't see something on the map, consider rotating that camera a couple times. So, we're a good ways in here already, like 15 minutes. Oh my, how the time does fly. We're running a bit short on time, but like right here is a good example of when I could have used that rot. So I've got the 2 manure here. I've got 4 as it turns out, but I could have planted the seeds instead of spending time getting the rot during this recipe here. Because I do need the seeds later on, and I kind of figured that out the hard way. As I went ahead and had to force grow them when the recipe arose. So there we've got our, you can still see the glitch is happening to me. I don't know if anybody's noted this before, but apparently all of the images for the recipes are stored like server side, and from time to time they won't all download to my client, which means that you'll end up with meals that show up as big black boxes from time to time. And this could have something to do with like my internet connection. The game does not play very nicely with my internet connection. I cannot host the games on my main computer, so it might have something to do with that. I don't know if there's like some weird, because I use a special hosts file that's supposed to filter out like malicious websites and whatnot. And I don't know if there was something that ended up in there that causes a conflict with this game. Like I haven't really had many other problems. Like I can join other people's games. It's just hosting them is impossible for me. I think it'd be really weird if it was the hosts file that I had edited that was causing the problem, but you have to sort of consider all possibilities here. So I think this is the recipe where I need to get a large meat. So I bought the slaughter tools because we're going to be killing a beefalo. And then we need the additional salt, I think, for another key. We've got the spice, and the only other thing that we would be needing is the flour, which of course is already in the chest. So that's all. It's all pretty done. The one thing I did forget here, and it causes me to go back, as you'll see right here, is the large grill. When I first went into here to get the spices, I should have also picked up the large grill. I somehow overlooked that when I was looking at the recipe, because even though I keep note of which cooking counter it needs to be on, counter, is that right? Cook station it needs to be on, I suppose station is better, or a more apt description. Even though I keep it at the very beginning of the recipe before the ingredients, I somehow overlooked that I needed the large grill. So that wasted a little bit more time, and it's something you want to keep in mind when trying this yourself if you want to save some time there. Like, I'm not claiming to be the most efficient. I think this is an important point that more people should maybe understand, is like if I'm within the 10%, I think I should be happy. Like if out of all the players I could place 10% within that 10 percentile number, I would be happy. Like you don't have to be the 1%. There's a lot of pressure on the 1%, and the types of people that follow the 1% do not, follow you if you're no longer the 1%. So you have a lot of pressure from that as well. To keep going, to keep being 1%, otherwise you lose anybody who's following you for that. So there you go, it's cooked. Good job. Running out of time though, as you can see, and we've got one more meal after this. I think you could see I bought the silver plate there, and we still have one more medallion left, so we can buy another silver plate. I think it's called sapphire medallion. Oh, we actually got an additional one. Very good. So the next one, of course, is the ever popular pasta. So this is in 7 rounds, by the way, so that means you could get that accomplishment, the like Zero-Wait Staff Accomplishment. You could definitely get it playing solo as WES, for sure. Like, if I can do it, I think you can do it as well. I'm not that great at the game. So this is where I made a mistake. I mentioned before I should have planted these seeds beforehand so they'd be grown, but instead I dilly-dallied, made a few too many hesitations, and fortunately I had the manure though for it, so it didn't take too long to go ahead and fast grow it. So that's another thing, to keep, if you don't know what to do, if you're not sure what's next, maybe plant a little bit of wheat, maybe get a little bit of extra poop, maybe cut down an additional tree. Like, those are all very safe actions. They're not going to spoil with time. So, it's something that can carry into the future quite nicely. And we've got the flour at this point. So that means we just need to get the milk if I'm not mistaken, from Mumsy. And this stuff goes in the... Wait. Yeah, okay, here we're getting the milk. It goes in the small cook pot, believe it or not. Nothing too fancy, for sure. So, you got the milk in there. Got the cook pot up, and I had more than enough logs here. Well, I had one extra log. But that's why I like to settle on the 25 number or so. Usually you end up with enough logs, you don't have to bother chopping again. Just that one chopping at the very beginning. And this is a recipe that cooks very fast, so you want to make sure that you stick around for it. This pasta one here, the mac and cheese, I think it's called, macaroni and cheese. Yeah, it can get away on you very quickly. It's happened in other games that I've played where, especially less experienced players, they did not pay attention to it for long enough. And there you go, the third favor. I took a screenshot here briefly, I think, yeah, just to show that I managed to do it. You know, that's like proof in a screenshot. And then we buy the ancient key, and it's Bon Voyage, something like that. So I hope that gave you some insight into the process behind me completing it. I'm pretty sure I didn't get anything special for completing this. There wasn't like a special achievement unlike the previous video, but maybe gives you some ideas. Once again, the resource to the recipes that I use will probably be in the description below. Thanks to Fuffles for linking it to me. I tried a previous set of recipes that didn't seem to work quite as well for a solo player. Like I'd get 2 of the 3, but I wasn't able to get 3 of the 3 favors. And I'm level 43 at the moment. Like I said, I'm happy with it. This was my first time soloing it, and I'm pretty content, pretty happy that I managed to do it. So thank you very much for watching as always. Hope you learned something, and I hope to see you next time.